Now, if you were to ask me, I think GuliKit is taking the blank slate route, and I'm all here for it. And today we're going to be talking about their brand new controllers, two of them that they just released, the GuliKit ES and the GuliKit ES Pro. Now, both of these were sent for review. That has no impact on my opinions and when it changed hands. I believe that the ES in both of them stands for eSports, and indeed one of the things that you'll see in this video is how blazingly fast that these controllers are, but we'll get to that a little later. Before we push further, I want to go back to the intro. GuliKit historically has always released the higher end of a collection and then eventually introduced the lower end. And with this models, I think it's, as far as I know, their first time hopefully going about it in a different way, because these models retail for $25 and $30. They're super inexpensive, super affordable. Now, are they worth the price? Because as low as it may be, if it's not worth it, what's the point? Well, that will definitely identify with this video, but I do want to highlight one thing before we go any further. The ES will push aside, and the reason is very simple. It is, I want to say, for 95% of what this controller is: the buttons, the triggers, the shoulders, the speed, the connection types, the modes that it has. All that is exactly the same as the Pro equivalent. In fact, both models, you can take out the face buttons and have replacements if you want a Nintendo layout. They both do that. The question then remains, okay, well, why is 125 and 130? What you see right now on screen is all the differences that you have between the two. The ES has Hall effect sticks, whereas the ES Pro has TMR sticks. And the ES does not have aiming redirection, it doesn't have sensitivity adjustments, it doesn't have the 8-way and 4-way D-pad swap. You can swap the ABXY layout physically, as I showed you a moment ago, but you cannot swap it in software, which you'll see in the shortcuts in the manuals. But it also does not come with a USB-C cable. So let's push forward. On the ES, you have up to a 2200 points in resolution Hall effect sticks, whereas on the ES Pro you have double the resolution on TMR sticks. What this should account to is if you're looking to buy one or the other, but you don't really care for aiming, you don't really care for shooting. Like, I'm not saying this is not going to be good and not viable for that, but if you are into shooters, if you are into games that will utilize or benefit from great quality sticks, you should aim for the ES Pro.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
This one might end up being in a giveaway, as well as another Pro that GuliKit sent me. The sneaky guys, they sent me two. They knew I was going to give one away. We never discussed it, but yeah, it's the second time they're pulling the... No, but all kidding aside, there is one issue, however. I did do a giveaway for their elf stoop, and I ran into issues with shipping to the US. I am investigating this, so for now, just stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled, especially for community posts. There will most likely be a giveaway very soon. I do need to get to the bottom of this before I do an actual giveaway. In terms of specs, we have wired and Bluetooth. We don't have a dongle. Pretty impressive speeds, which we'll test later during the video. Face buttons, we have membrane style, very snappy, very responsive, and with a nice, quite faint thump as you push them down, and you'll see that during the audio test. I love how they feel and I love how they sound. D-pad, we have a tactile. Of course, I've been very open about those not being my favorite, but I do like the feel, the texture. Very easy to glide, so much so that I don't believe the corners, which I'm usually susceptible to and don't like when they're too sharp, I don't believe that's going to bother me here, but we'll see if it plays just as nice. Of course, we have the sticks. These are TMR. The other model, like I mentioned, are Hall effect, and they both have an anti-skid around the modules themselves. Your face buttons are all membrane. Shoulder buttons are what I would describe as a tactile, but with a membrane on top. It feels like there's just a little bit of resistance that is quite nice to feel, and they're also not super noisy. I'm really liking what we have here. And the triggers are Hall effect, and in the back we have only a switch in two modes: PC or Nintendo Switch, and you have an off button whenever your controller is open. You can also close it by holding home, but the little button right here will do a quick job of it. So for example, right now it's trying to pair. If I just push, there you go, it just shuts it. And then of course you have your USB-C up top, no 3.5mm jack, very much an Xbox style kind of shape here. I'm sure with your eyes closed you could be fooled into thinking that you're actually holding one. Same goes for the triggers, which have a very similar style and a little bit of texture also. They feel quite nice, the texture, I mean, well, the triggers as well, but the texture does have a nice grip to your fingers. If we're looking at the texture, this is something that I'm super happy that they're moving away. What we have with the KK3 Max, that kind of velour feel with the treatment that they had on top. This is so much simpler, probably way more affordable to do for them as well. We have a little bit of branding here, very subtle, and a little bit of a feel on top, but not grippy necessarily. And in the back we have a very fine dotted pattern. The back here is slightly different than what you have at the front, feels slightly different, but it looks pretty similar, pretty identical. The face buttons are glossy and the D-pad is matte, but it glides so nice. And so this is it for going around the controller itself. They both have gyro, they both have rumble, they both have rotary rumble. I so wish that the ES Pro had maglev. My intuition here is that GuliKit is starting from the bottom and they're gonna work their ways to the top if that controller collection does well. I'd love to see a day where we have an ES Max that, you know, pushes some of the things that GuliKit have established on the market that I do believe they haven't gotten enough credit for, and one of them is definitely their maglev motor. What we have is a rotary, very traditional, nice feeling, nice sounding. Now another feature that is not software per se, but is definitely in the range of, they both can wake up the Switch 2 as well as the Switch 1, much like the elves that I covered recently in a review. One thing that GuliKit is determined to not do, have a freaking software. I wish they'd have a software app on mobile, on PC. Unfortunately, that is not the case. They still have a handful of shortcuts. I'll put them on screen right about now. That's another area where you'll have a couple more options on the ES Pro. If you're the kind of person to tweak your controller a lot, that $5 difference to go for the Pro model will also give you more options in terms of just tweaking it. Let's go do the audio test. When it is charging, you have a little RGB orange to let you know that it is charging, and green when it is fully charged, like previous GuliKit controllers. And when you power it up, it goes white to let you know that it's currently powered. Right now I'm on the Pro controller mode. Let me go ahead and switch to the regular PC mode. Let's start with our testing. Now for sticks in particular, I will test them both. The first thing we want to do is calibrate our sticks before going any further. And to do that, we're going to hold L, R, left D-pad, and B. Hold it for a couple of seconds, approximately 5-6 seconds. The RGB will change to let you know that we're getting into the mode. And once it is doing that, you want to rotate your sticks slowly. You can do them at the same time, approximately 3 to 4 times. When it's done, it's going to vibrate and let you know that it's finished. Starting with stick tremor. We do have stick tremor. In fact, you can see that my left stick that is at the resting position is currently experiencing a little bit of tremor. The tremor doesn't seem to be a whole lot, so I don't expect that to reflect in your games. Axis snapping, there is absolutely none. Snapback is present. Circularity, this is what we're working with. We don't have the ability to go from corrected or raw, so this is somewhere in between the two. For inner dead zone, that's actually a setting in the controller, and if you remove dead zone as I have at the moment, there's definitely no dead zone at all. Looking at the increments and how little they can be, I also don't believe that there's any gap dead zone. As for the outer dead zone, you have a little bit of it. Stick tension, and this is something I love. It has a pretty low tension at 50 TGF, so I'm super excited to see how well these sticks are going to do. Lastly, when looking at stick resolution, we are at 0.001. And so let's put this one aside for a second and do the same thing with the non-pro variant. Quick calibration. Stick tremor. This one has them as well. No axis snapping. There is stick snapback. For circularity, this is what we're working with. Inner dead zone, you have none of it. Well, you can also change the settings with this controller as well with a shortcut. Gap dead zone, I'm not detecting anything either. And for outer dead zone, we have a little bit here as well, but slightly less than the ES Pro actually. Stick tension, we are at a smidge, and I mean really a smidge higher. I'd say more or less 55 TGS as opposed to 50 on the ES Pro. In terms of step resolution, we are getting 0.001. Hopping on the DPad testings, diagonal focus. Once you're locked in, you're locked in. Rolling test, feels good. That D-pad really has a nice feel to it, and very stable too. Adjacent direction, so here's the thing. Yes, it's here. However, only the ES Pro, that's another difference that it has versus the ES. Only the ES Pro has the ability to jump from an 8-way, which is what we're on right now, to a 4-way. And to do that, we want to do gear plus the right D-pad, so right now, I'm on a 4-way, and so with that in mind, I am no longer able to do adjacent directions, as you can see. And so that would greatly eliminate misfire inputs in games. We'll go back to the 8-way. Accidental inputs, honestly, it's near impossible with that D-pad. It's extremely well executed. Like, I can't usually do that with both of my fingers. So yeah. Accidental inputs, impossible with this one. Center pivot is 0. There's not even a flex in the shell, the housing. There is 0, 0, 0 center pivot on this controller. In terms of center pivot input, very easy to do still, but that is still without a pivot, so it's well executed. When looking at trigger, start of the dead zone, yes we do. We actually have a fair amount of dead zone at the start. Oh wow, okay, those triggers are tweaked. We do also have a pretty far dead zone at the end of the trigger, so both end do have a dead zone. Dampening, yes. It's not the biggest I've seen. It's there to stop you if anything, but it doesn't hold any value, so that's fine. Both the ES and ES Pro have no air trigger whatsoever. That's just not part of that product line. And let's jump into aim labs, finally. Genuinely, I'm excited because I have no clue what to expect, and it sucks that we don't have a hair trigger, but I feel like it might do good, so let's jump in. Okay, so 24,000, not bad by any means. Oh my gosh, this controller is so silent. You do not hear it at all, but that's not the point here. The sticks do feel nice, not my ideal curve. I didn't think it was gonna be this aggressive. That's the thing. I don't play with risers, but I know this is a stick for a riser. I can just feel it in the centermost portion of your stick. If you can have more controls there, which I was hoping that the low tension was going to help me, but I guess I'm still just not used to a curve that's aggressive. But if I was to use risers, I know that I would do better with that. The other thing, and that may not be the case for you, that may not be a problem for you, but I'm realizing that I've been pampered by hair triggers. Not having them, I feel it. This is a problem. And keep in mind, this is a controller that is blazingly fast and blazingly light. Having to actuate that trigger, I feel like it's helping the stability of the controllers in my hands. There's a moment I also feel like I'm being like super considerate with my movements. Let me try the ES, see if it's any different. Oh man, at this rate, I'm gonna shred the ES Pro with this one. My gosh. Oh, wow. Okay. I did not... Dude, the control that I have with this stick is... What? Yeah, okay. This is the ES. Okay, let's do another one. The thing is, if it wasn't for my accuracy, I would have at least matched my previous score. I did not expect to say that, but I guess you might get a feel as to where my conclusion is heading. But those sticks feel better to me. When it comes to gyro redirection, you either have to map it to L or ZL. So in this specific case, I have it mapped to ZL, and you have different settings. So as you hold it, right now I'm going to remove it. You hold the gear and you do L or ZL. One time is going to give a certain sensitivity. And by the way, one thing that's interesting is that you can have sensitivity 1 on L, but you can also have sensitivity 2 on ZL if you wanted. So if for some reason you can unmap this button and just keep it for your redirection, you could do that. I am just going to use the first level, and let's see how much I can do with gyro. It's decent. It's crazy for me to say, but if I'm trying to aim with this, I don't think I'll be using the TMR sticks. I think I will lean more on the gyro redirection. The one issue that I have with this one is that you do have to allocate a button. You cannot just have it on or have a toggle, for example, and that's potentially a little complicated. Easy to hit the diagonals, and just for the record, I'm on the 8-way right now. If I was on the 4-way, I wouldn't even be able to do that. So let me show you. Right now I'm on the 4-way. I cannot jump at the same time. So that could be problematic if you're trying to do that. The 4-way is not gonna let you jump diagonally, but that's the idea. That's the goal. It's to prevent doing 2 arrows at the same time. Let's go back to the 8-way, and as you can see, diagonals are happening fine. I'm struggling with it. When you're just expecting for the natural to come back, the travel is extremely short, like. All right, let's move to something different. I'd say that's already a lot more pleasant, because the thing with that very short travel and very responsive tactile switch that we have here, the moment, say for example, I'm holding the up arrow, and the moment I'm adding the right arrow as I'm holding the up arrow, it's immediately noticeable. Like, you immediately feel and hear the click. And so for that, it's going to be very rapid to move from one diagonal to the other. Where movement occurs, that might be a little more challenging to do. Is it my favorite D-pad? I'd say no, it's not. Now here's the game where I think this D-pad will absolutely shine. The other day I was playing on stream, and that move I just did, I kept trying and I couldn't pull it off. Yeah, this D-pad is legit, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my god, oops. Very, very good D-pad for that kind of game. Fast, rapid platformers will probably benefit from those super short and super fast tactile switches. That's definitely where it shines. So here, as I'm testing the triggers, the sensation, the feeling is pleasant. There's really no issues there, and they really feel like they're floating, these triggers. They do feel nice for that reason. As far as like being able to really dial it in, and especially like that game can ramp up so fast, I am having a hard time like locking into a speed. I feel like the dead zones at the start and end of those triggers, they're showing their limitations here. I think GuliKit, knowing that there's no hair trigger on these controllers, we're probably aiming for something that was going to feel more responsive. And if that was the goal, yeah, I can see how that would be a wise decision. If you're going to be playing games where having those nuances are going to be important, I genuinely don't think it's a trigger for that. And finally, we are at performance, and that is undoubtedly one area where both of these controllers shine. They're just blazingly fast. It's completely absurd. Now that will be specifically on the X input. switch mode. The switch mode, however, on Bluetooth is also pretty clean, pretty fast. So you have flexibility here. It's not just X input, or it's just not wired. You can go Bluetooth, you can go cable. You know that it's going to be a responsive, snappy controller also when you're on the switch mode. So that's something that's really nice, really pleasant to see. What you see here is essentially the same with the ES Pro, the non-Pro variant. You have a slight difference in my numbers, absolutely normal, well within the range. That is 110% one area where both the ES and ES Pro both shine. They're just crazy fast. So let's move towards the conclusion. But before we do, I did want to pair them both with the Nintendo Switch to make sure that it can effectively wake the Nintendo Switch 2. You want to put your controller in pairing while the Switch is closed. So you put it in pairing, and as it is pairing, you will open up your Switch, pair the controller, and only then it should be able to wake up the Switch. All right. Interesting. Okay, let's see if the ES is any different. Okay, this one didn't even receive the signal to power off. But it wakes up the Switch 2 without issue. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know why this one seems to have a different behavior. GuliKit, if you see this video, in both cases I am on firmware 2.9, so I don't know if something is different with this one. But one thing for sure, even though my video is not able to showcase it at this point in time, both the ES and the ES Pro are supposed to be able to wake up the Switch. Now, I would assume that if I just do it again with the ES, it will. There you go. Okay, so the ES and the ES Pro, for me, these controllers are a success. Not only is it what I consider to be a step in the right direction for GuliKit, they strike extremely good value. Now, I'm not trying to imply that they're perfect, but if I think of, for example, the Nova 2 Lite that I reviewed recently, these hold up super nicely to the Nova 2 Lite. It has things that stands over them, just like these have things that stands over the Nova 2 Lite. It's gonna come down to what you want and what you need. Would I recommend them? Easily. But shockingly enough, despite having good gyro redirection and having the 4-way and, you know, a couple more features, at least for me personally, including for the one reason that should make this one less appealing, I would go ES over the ES Pro, and that includes the sticks. I did not expect that. That is so you know now that my videos are not, at least my controller reviews are not scripted. I did not expect that at all. You know, I said I was gonna make a giveaway. I don't think I'm gonna be giving away the ES when I can define which and how. I think I'm just gonna give away the 2 ES Pros, if I'm being honest. Anyways, stay tuned for a post to get further into how we're gonna get that going. But until then, let me know if you guys have questions. Drop your comments in the comment box. Consider hitting the like if you enjoyed this video, and to subscribe to not miss any future ones. That was the review for the GuliKit ES and the GuliKit ES Pro. I'm Clef. Thank you very much for watching, and to GuliKit for sending these controllers. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.